All right. Hello, second graders. We are on lesson 27, session 3. In our books, we are on page 651, and we are reading and making line plots. So we're going to continue our discussion on reading and making line plots. Here we go.
All right, so the first problem says, Julia spills a box of spaghetti. She picks up the broken pieces. Measure each piece using centimeters. Show how the measurement data might be organized. So this is a big problem. You have multiple things that you have to do. So Mrs. Kraft and Mrs. Walker are not going to measure it for you. We're going to give you the links right now just to make this easier. But if you were doing this work, you would have to use, let's see, centimeters, so pinky finger, or a ruler with centimeters, okay? So we're going to pretend like we've already measured it. And let's see. We don't. Oh, yeah, we do. Okay. Mrs. Walker, you want to tell me the links and I'll write it?
Sure.
It's on the next page. So A is how long?
A is, sorry.
You got to go to the next page, yeah.
Yep, 6 centimeters.
4.
No, they're not in order. That's why I couldn't find it.
Sorry, friends. Okay, hold on. Okay, here we go. 6 centimeters. Okay.
Centimeters. B is 4 centimeters.
Okay.
C is 8 centimeters.
All right.
D is 5 centimeters. E is 7. F is 8. G is 10. And H is 6.
Okay. So I didn't label all of these with the centimeters just because it takes a little longer for me and I'm using that drawing tool, which makes it hard. But we know because of the problem that they are all in centimeters. So the unit of measurement is the same for each one. So what we're going to do is we're going to show you a couple of different strategies for how to organize the information that we see here, okay? So if we look at the next slide, one thing that we can do is we can group the pieces by length and then put them in order. So we would go from the smallest piece to the biggest piece, because that's how a number line works, right? We always start at the smallest number and then we go up to the biggest number. So if you look at it, the order of the alphabet letters have changed because that doesn't match the size. So really the smallest piece was 4 centimeters and that's B, right? So you see here we have 4 and then 5, and then look here, there are 2 6s, 1 7, 2 8s, and 1 10. So this is one option for organizing this information. Now, another option that we have would be to draw that table that we learned about earlier this week, right? And when we do this, our table will have 2 parts. So we would just cut our table in half like this, and this is going to be the length. And we know, I'm just going to put LE for length, okay? And we know that it's in what kind of measurement, Mrs. Walker?
It's in centimeters.
Yeah, and then this is the piece, okay? So this is going to be the letter. That way we just know which one's which, okay? Sorry, my handwriting is yucky with this thing. Okay, so the first piece that we have, we're gonna start it with 4, okay? And then we're gonna go 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. Okay, so remember when we make a line plot, we are plotting how many of each number there are, right?
Right. And we have to always make sure they're in order. So like we have to make sure we start with the smallest and end with the biggest, just like you did.
Okay, so here is our table. It's not perfect, but does it have to be perfect? Never has to be perfect. How many 4s are there?
1.
How many 5s?
1.
How many 6s?
2.
How many 7s?
1.
How many 8s?
2.
Any 9s?
Nope. 0.
And 10s.
110.
Okay, so we keep saying these are different ways to organize our information, right? Well, what is another word for information that we should be using? Data, right? So these are all different ways to organize our data, okay? And that's all that you need to know. Data is the information that you're using to make sense of the problem. All right, so now we have our information in our table, right? Would this mean that making a line plot will be very easy for us? Okay, the next slide is going to show us what this line plot will look like. So we're taking that exact same information that we just did on the table. So this information right here, right? And they went ahead and they put it in a line plot for us. So the title, what are we measuring?
The spaghetti pieces.
Yep, so that's the title. Let's see, it is the length, right? Because that's what we're measuring. And what unit of measurement?
Centimeters.
Centimeters, so it does say that. And then we knew that our smallest piece was 4 and our biggest piece was 10. So no matter how you look at this, 4 and 10, whether you're doing the picture or the table, the smallest number is still the same and the biggest number is still the same, right?
Yep.
So they started on the number line on 4 and they ended at 10. They then counted up and put all the numbers in between and they tried to make it evenly spaced. Then they went back to the table or to the picture and they said there was 1 4, I'm going to put an X, 1 5, 2 6s, 1 7, 2 8s, there were no 9s, and there was 1 10. So you're still organizing the information, but you're just putting it onto that line plot. All right.
All right, so now let's look at some questions pertaining to what we just did. So it says, look at the picture it. What are the lengths of the shortest and the longest spaghetti pieces? So we talked about this. We start with the shortest and end with the longest. So we started with 4 and we ended with 10.
And I didn't even have to look back because we talked about it so much. I remembered.
Right. So number 2, look at the model it. What does each number on the line plot show? So now this wants us to put it in words, and it wants to tell us what each number on the line plot shows. So what does it show? The length of what?
The length of the pieces of spaghetti.
Right.
In centimeters, really, right? I don't know how to spell spaghetti very well. In centimeters. Okay.
All right, number 3, what does each X on the line plot show? So what is the X?
So the X shows the length of one piece of spaghetti. There is an X for each piece, right? Is that good?
Yep, looks good.
All right, and then the next one says, why does the line plot start at 4 instead of 0?
Remember, we always start with the shortest piece or the littlest number. Okay, so in this case, we did shortest. So we always start with that. It wasn't 0. There weren't any pieces of spaghetti that were 0. So we can't start with the 0. We have to start with what the data has given us, and that was 4.
Good job. Okay, let's look at another problem.
Okay.
All right, so this says, Lena has several pieces of yarn. Measure the lengths below in centimeters, then use the lengths to complete the line plot. Explain how you decided where to draw the X's on the line plot. So how many parts do we have to do? Quite a few, don't we?
We have quite a few to do.
Okay, so first let's organize our information, our data. Okay, let's measure so that we know what our numbers are. Okay, so Mrs. Walker, you do the measuring and I'll do the writing.
Okay. So A is 7, B is 6, C is 4, D is 6, E is 4, and F is 3.
Okay, do we want to make a table or do we want to just look at it?
Oh, I think we can look at it. You
Okay.
guys are getting really good at this.
So the first question we have to ask is, what is the smallest piece of yarn?
Okay, so we look at it and it looks like 3 is our smallest.
Okay, so now what is the largest, the
And it looks
longest?
7 is our longest piece.
Okay, so if we did this right, we fill in the numbers and there shouldn't be any missing numbers, right? 3,
Right.
4, 5, 6, 7. Okay,
Good job.
now, do you want to do it Mrs. Walker's way or Mrs. Croft's way? Let's go ahead and do it Mrs. Walker's way. You walk me through it, Mrs. Walker.
Okay, so I would start at the 3 and count how many 3s there are. So I can see that there's one piece of yarn that is 3, so I'm going to put 1x.
Okay.
Then I'm going to look at the 4s and I see there are 2 4s. So I'm going to put 2 x's on the 4. 1, 2. And then I notice that there aren't any 5s at all, so I'm not going to put anything because the x's represent the pieces of string. So we don't want to put anything. Okay, then 6s, it looks like there's 2. So again, I'm going to put 2 x's.
And notice how I'm crossing them out as we do it. That helps us keep track of our data as we're putting it on the line plot.
Mm-hmm. And then there is 1 for 7. And another way to check, even after we cross them out, is how many x's do you have? Count your x's. 1, 2,
6.
3, 4, 5, 6. Then we can go over and count our pieces of yarn. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And we know we have done all of our data.
Now,
Okay.
I see something's missing on this line plot.
Ooh, I don't see a title.
Right, so what should we title it?
How about pieces of yarn or yarn pieces?
Okay. Okay, what was the other part of the question that it asked us?
Okay, so then we have to explain, so that means we have to use words, how you decided where to draw the X's on the line plot.
Ooh,
So
all right. I'm gonna put it over here in this space.
Okay.
So how did we decide where to put the X's on the line plots?
Well, first, we looked at the littlest number and found how many of the littlest number there were. And put an X or, yeah. Sorry. Yep.
So then we continued until we marked each piece of yarn, right?
Right.
We continued to look at the number and marked them on the line plot. And then we went back and we counted and we made sure that we used we made 6 X's because there were 6 pieces of yarn.
Yep.
So we just use words to describe what we did.
Yep.
All right.
So how many X's, how many X's should be on the yarn line plot in all? Oh, so we technically did this already because we were checking our work, right? But how many X's should there be?
6.
That's right. We counted to make sure and we got 6. Nice job.
Okay, number 8 says Lynn puts 7 in the left square on the line plot above and ends with 3 in the last square. So here's what Lynn did. She made her line plot. This is the left side. This is the right side. She started here and she put 7 And then over here, she put 3.
Mm.
Why is Lynn wrong? Can we explain why she's wrong?
Yep, we can.
Okay, give it to me.
So she started with the longest piece of yarn instead of the smallest or shortest piece of yarn. And we can't do that because that's not how our numbers work. We know when we count, we start with the littlest number and work our way up to the biggest number. So she needed to switch those two around.
So a number line always starts with the smallest number on the left
Yep.
and gets greater as we move to the right.
Yep. Good.
As we move to the right. Okay.
Yes. Very good.
All right. So that's it for our lesson today. Your green pages today will be page 655 and 656. So you do want to use the example to answer questions 1 through 4 on the front page. And then on page 656, do they have to do that measuring?
They do.
Okay, so you will have to measure the length of the ribbons in centimeters. So remember, if you don't have a ruler, use your pinky and just use your best estimate, okay? Even if you're off by a centimeter, your answers will just adjust to how you made your line plot. So it'll still be correct, okay?
Right.
All right, and that's it for today. We will see you tomorrow.
Bye.
Bye.